Alrighty, guys. So it is week 2 of the Eminence and Shadow event, and I figured they probably won't drop any more monsters. Not necessarily true. They could always drop a monster on Friday or Saturday. Sometimes they do that. But generally speaking, I would say that after the first week, pretty much all the monsters are out. So I'll do my opinions, what I think you should spawn, what I don't think you should spawn, and go over the monsters from the Eminence and Shadow collab. Both of these, the 70 gem and the 50 gem, I never recommend doing either of these. Main reason is because the likelihood of you getting what you want is really low. And if you do the 70 gem spawn, I've done the 70 gem spawn many times in the past. Not once have I ever gotten a monster. So don't expect a monster. I don't recommend spawning these. I would recommend spawning the step ups if you actually want monsters. So we'll start with Delta. She has some pretty gnarly damage. She is dark, which is unfortunate. Dark is pretty easy to block against, but she is a straight up PvP monster. She applies Insanity, which is incredibly good. She gives Frenzy so that you can kill the enemies easily. She applies Elevation, which is that? I can't remember if that's the one that gives you yeah, so that's the one that boosts your main slot activation skill. So it basically allows you to attack more. I couldn't remember if it was concentration or elevation. Concentration is the one that gives you the same thing for your defense main slots. So it increases your main slot activation so you can proc more. She gives a demerit, and she changes everyone's cost to 50. So this is one of those instances where it sounds bad, and there are instances where it actually could be really bad. Like for example, in PvE, when you're doing a quest, some classes like Morpher can get up to 150 to 200 cost as their baseline cost. And with a lot of the newer abilities being super expensive, this could be seen as a detriment to cost potentially. But there are instances where this is really good. In guild battles or in Coliseum when you're fighting opponents and you have 0 cost, or the enemies try to reduce your cost too close to 0, at least at the very end of your uni, you should have 50 cost. Which in my opinion, it's arguable whether or not this is a benefit or a bad thing. But overall, I'd say it's probably better than not having something like this. She also increases so that you can have triple proc. I think this is incredible, both having elevation and the absolute, the triple attack proc. This makes it way more likely that you triple proc. Rampage, this one's okay. I personally don't like this bubble, but at least she gives a bubble, so you'll probably survive a little bit more. And she gives an anti-field, which this anti-field is pretty darn good. It basically helps you survive, right? So you're reducing the enemy's stats, and all of their attacks are reduced by 100 ability power, and they take more damage. All of those are excellent for PvP. As far as when she gets awakened, she applies rage to everyone, which isn't necessary most of the time. Like, you're not going to really feel this in PvE, in PvP, but it's nice, I guess. Scorching resistance. Scorching is interesting. A lot of newer monsters are applying Scorching, but nobody really knows how good Scorching is. Scorching reduces your defense by 50%, all of your defense stats. and it scales. So if you get hit with multiple scorchings, it can actually reduce your, if you're stacked to 3, it'll actually reduce your defenses by 90%, which basically means that if anyone hits you, you will instantly explode. And even though I love this scorching resistance, nobody really uses it because most people think that all it does is once you use an ability, it takes some of your HP, which is true, it does do that, but it also reduces your defense. So I like the scorching resistance, but honestly, I wish it was something like insanity or rejection because most people don't even know what scorching does. So when you see it, you're not afraid of it. And then Fire and Star, this is incredible. Overall, I actually really like this monster, especially if you're a physical damage dealer because she's going to be hitting really hard. I'd say this is like an 8 out of 10 monster, to be honest. For PvP specifically, this is a pretty solid monster. I don't think you're going to be going wrong with this. The main reason is because the uni defense is pretty darn good as well. For a long time in the meta, wind monsters have been super powerful. For some reason, A-Team has given wind monsters for the last like 5 years an incredible amount of damage when it comes to piercing. So for a long time, wind has been an incredibly powerful uni. So fire counters wind, obviously, and so this will protect you against wind. I like this monster overall. I think she's pretty good. She's actually one of the ones that I want, but I don't know if I want to spawn for her because I haven't decided yet. Epsilon. So she is an increased activation monster, which means she'll never do damage, but that's okay. So let's see what else she does. She gives, she removes cost, which in the current guild battle, so guild battles change incredibly often. Like the meta changes, what people are running changes, and that makes what people are running on the defensive side very different. Sometimes people are running 100% uni, protection, so they can't be uni down. Sometimes people are running that for cost, so they can't be cost down. In guild battles, this is incredibly powerful as a first throw, because that makes it, if your opponent doesn't have good cost reduction protection, then they won't have any cost. And if you have no cost, you can't move, which means they have to swap, which means you have 5 seconds to do something, unless they have ninjas, in which case you have 1 second. But either way, it's a pretty solid thing for guild battles. This is obviously not a PvE thing. Field obstacle of the enemy side is incredibly good right now, because if the enemy has no field, it's really hard to one-shot the crystal. So this will help stall out the enemy. Reduces healing. I don't know how I feel about this. This is a really interesting debuff, and the reason why is because healing is something that cannot be cleansed by any class in the entire game. Even clerics are incapable of cleansing a healing reduction. This is a really strange debuff, incredibly rare. I have never seen this on a monster before. And the only way to counter this healing reduction is to use an ability that increases healing reduction. There's no way to remove something like this. So I think it's really interesting. I don't know how good it's gonna be, to be honest. Like, healing in guild battles isn't super important, and neither is healing in like PvP and Coliseum, you know, like, so I'm kind of curious, honestly, how powerful this will be, but it's incredibly rare. I've never seen this before. It is interesting. Applies counter healing to the allies. Again, healing isn't that big of a deal. Like, Most of the time in guild battle, you just get one shot because the enemies have, they've thrown like a Twilight monster and they're just killing you, right? So there's no healing really involved. You just get one shot or they're not attacking you like that. So it's weird, you know, I don't know how I feel about it. In Colosseum, you might see some healing from rooks or clerics, but it's interesting. It's interesting. I do like the counter healing tied together with Fortify. And the reason why is Fortify is one of those new abilities that basically makes it so that you shouldn't die really quickly, especially if you have CP. So this is like during Colosseum or during guild battles, you have that extra blue bar, that's the CP bar, which is usually way bigger. But this will reduce any damage you take to a maximum of 25% of your maximum HP. So your HP pool is the much smaller number. And so you'll be taking much more damage or much less damage to your CP, which means you have to be hit a lot more times. And it also, this gets reduced by 10 seconds every time it procs. So this might not last a very long time, but it's a really good defensive buff. And I'm curious how good this is with something like counter heal, right? Because if you have counter heal and you're getting hit for 25%, you should be healing for 10%. So you should only be taking 15%. So even if you lost your CP bar, as long as you still have Fortify, this might actually be a really powerful monster. And then it gives you a bubble, which is always good. I always like bubbles. It recovers 100% of your cost and fills your uni gauge when it's removed. So that means that if they're attacking you, there's a chance that you get to uni again, and there's a chance that you get full cost. Both of those things are actually pretty darn good. This is where I'm disappointed. So 40k is good. That's what we want. But only having one uni defense, in my opinion, is much worse. For example, the other monster had fire and star, and both of them were 600. So you could look at it as right away, that's 1200 uni defense total. But star actually protects you against light and dark, which is two elements. So that's 1200 right there. So the other monster gave you essentially 1800 uni defense. This one's half that, right? So this is a little bit disappointing. Frail resistance plus 60, that's pretty gnarly. I'm not gonna lie. These monsters having both uni defense and these specialized resistances is incredibly good. Frail is the one that makes it so that you can't defense proc, I believe. So yeah, Frail's pretty damn good for PvE. Honestly, I'm really, really curious how good this monster is. I think this monster could be a really excellent second or third throw in a guild battle. And I think it could be a really safe throw in Colosseum. So overall, I would say that this monster is an 8 out of 10. But it's like, I'm gonna add a question mark to that 8 out of 10. And the reason why is because I don't know, I've never seen this monster in action. It actually could be a 10 out of 10, or, you know, this counter field, minus 100% healing plus the Fortify could actually be garbage, you know, like it could feel really bad and not do anything. So it could be, realistically, it could be like a 3 out of 10, or it could be a 10 out of 10. I'm gonna put it as an 8 out of 10 as my guess. So Epsilon's another one that's actually pretty damn good. So Alpha, she does magic damage. Unfortunately, it's light, so it's pretty easy to defend against. She gives 180 buff, Vital Strikes, which is incredibly rare. Not a lot of monsters give Vital Strikes. And getting it for 120 for 120 seconds, that's real good. She also gives Kijin, which is also really nice. She gives Ambush, which I am not a fan of at all, but it's whatever. A lot of people like Ambush because you can use the ability just over and over and over and over and over again. I don't know. I feel like there are enough abilities that I'm not like dying for ambush. I would rather have barracks because barracks is the best bubble. And the reason why is because for almost every class you want to be dual scaling, and barracks not only dual scales everything, so it gives you 100% stats in attack, defense, and magic defense, but it also gives you crit. Every single attack is a crit. And there are so many procs that need crit, so when I don't see a barracks, I'm not excited. And this is ambush. I mean, it's better than a lot of things, but it's not what I love. And then infinite element, honestly, it's okay. I'm not a big fan of this field, but it's okay, whatever. And she also gives blessing. Blessing is really interesting. I think it's overlooked a lot, but it does protect you against uni-gauge reduction, which is pretty darn nice. Even for PvE, it could be nice. Some monsters in PvE give this. The big thing that I love about her is she gives wind and light defense and abstraction resistance. Oh, the abstraction resistance is so gnarly. Abstraction resistance, it essentially protects you against having all of your constants turned off. So there are lots of monsters. Essentially, the best way to kill the enemies is to abstract them. And the reason why is because when you're in guild battle or in Colosseum, if you turn off the enemies' constants, you're also turning off their Xenos gear. And the Xenos gear is the one that protects you against unis. It reduces incoming uni damage by a massive amount. It's like XXL, right? And so when you turn that off, then they become extremely squishy, and basically any uni will just kill them. And so abstraction resistance is incredibly good. Having it on a monster with so many things. I mean, we're talking 180, vital strikes, Kijin, ambush, even though it's just a bubble, and a good elemental field, plus blessing, and abstraction, and water, and light defense. I mean, this is like basically everything under the sun, incredibly strong. This is, in my opinion, a 10 out of 10 monster, just because of how versatile it is. Even if you're not throwing this monster, abstraction resistance, plus water and light. Because you have to keep in mind, most monsters, even modern monsters, will give you only 2 elements. So like, So like this monster gives you abstraction resistance and fire water. This was incredibly good. I mean, it still is really good. But even a monster from not that long ago, let's see. I bet this one gives rejection resistance and wind. But this one, I don't think does. Oh, she gives instead. So maybe it's not as, because I thought, yeah, see, like even some of the early 44 cost monsters, they just give light and wind and light defense. Because I thought that, I thought this was pretty rare. Wait, where's my, she should give something. Yeah, see, just dark defense. A lot of monsters don't give 2 things. This one, he does, but he only gives 1. Does she? She gives beguilement. It's interesting. A lot of the collab monsters have been giving it, but this was not a common occurrence. Like most of these older monsters, they give just water and they just give like 2 elements. Like this one just gives 2 elements. This one just gives 2 elements. There's not a lot of monsters. Even some of the normal rotation monsters, like this is a monster that you could pick up, and she just gives dark defense. So anything, in my opinion, anything that gives both resistances and a uni defense is already pretty darn good. So let's move on to Beta. She gives her damage is okay. I'm not a big fan of this. I thought that she would be a little bit stronger, maybe. All allies physical penalty. I do not remember what physical penalty does. If I'm being honest, it's pretty rare. I think ninjas are the ones that apply physical penalty. If I remember correctly, it just disables physical damage from being dealt. Like the enemy literally can't deal physical damage. But I'm not 100% sure on that. Slumber is really excellent. For those of you who don't know, it has 3 effects. So when slumber is applied to you, you have to use 30 cost if you want to become, like if you want to wake up. So you have to use abilities that equal 30 cost or more, and you have to be able to actually take 30 cost away from you. The second option is that somebody can attack you, and if they attack you and deal damage, they will instantly wake you up. But the damage that they deal on the first attack will be increased by a certain amount. I don't remember what it is, but essentially they'll hit you really, really hard for the first attack. And the third thing, the thing that it actually, the secondary effect that it gives is that it time slices you by 30 seconds. So slumber is excellent for PvP. And then all uni gauge filled on allies, reducing enemy uni gauge. So this is like a PvP monster. You can tell just from the first 4 things that it better not have any PvE things. Applies grace to everyone. This I'm not sure how I feel, right? Because grace nullifies cost reduction, but it doesn't nullify uni reduction. And it does protect you against things, but it's not as strong as it could be. So, yeah, she does give a bubble though. Bubbles are always really good. And this is, again, where I get disappointed. Wind defense of 900. It's just single. Even though water damage is also really high. So the water and wind have always been far superior to fire in terms of damage. And I don't know why fire has always gotten the short end of the stick. Recently, there's been a couple good fire monsters, so that might be changing. But slumber resistance is excellent. And one of the main reasons is because when you're in crystal assault, one of the older debuffs that used to be used a lot was a slumber attack. And if it landed on you, you'd basically be wasting 2 things, putting 2 abilities on cooldown at least, sometimes more than that. And you would be time sliced by 30%. So having resistance against it, in my opinion, is pretty darn good. Overall, I'm not a big fan of Beta. I would say she's probably a 6 out of 10. She's still a good monster, like especially for guild battle as a first throw. She's pretty damn good. As a first throw monster, she's good. In fact, I would say that she is worth. She's like a 9 out of 10 as a first throw monster. And the reason why is because she slumbers the enemy, and she increases your uni gauge, and she decreases the enemy uni gauge. That's basically everything that you would want in a good first throw. Of course, there are lots of other things that you can go for, like Croit and put enemy field so that they can't uni gain. And there's lots of other monsters, but this is a pretty solid monster. Like as far as first uni throws in a guild battle would be concerned, this is good. Other than that, though, I think she's a 6 out of 10. She's like not super exciting. All right, Beta 2.0. This bitch hits really hard. Disappointed by the 3 times. So it's it's like eh. And she's timed, so it's really easy to protect against her. From what I remember, she's a PvP monster. So she should basically strip everything from the enemy's side. Now there are, of course, buffs that will protect you against stripping, so there's a chance this doesn't work. But she still applies scorching. Remember, we talked about scorching, so that'll reduce the enemy's defense. That includes defense for unis as well. And then, of course, Slumber, excellent for PvP. She applies Twilight, which is my favorite killing buff, because there's nothing you can do to protect yourself. If you have Twilight, you will pierce, damage reduction, damage reflection, and damage nullification. So all of your abilities instantly kill all the enemies. I love it. And then Skirmish. This is just another bubble, which I'm okay with bubbles. It doesn't give you any stats, so this is probably one of the worst bubbles, but it's okay. And then Time Quail, of course, because she is a really, really fascinating monster. And this is where I am in love with these two monsters. She gives 3 time elements. So even if, let's say in 2 years, she will still be really good, right? Because she gives you 3 element, especially for time. A lot of people don't have this. Frozen resistance, not a big fan. And the reason why is because Frozen and Scorching run into the same problem of nobody knows what Frozen does. Frozen is a weaker version of paralysis. The first effect is that if you use an ability, there's a random chance it just doesn't go off. The second thing that it does is it reduces your attack and magic attack by an exponential amount. So it's 50%, and then it can stack up to 90%. So even if you 3 Frozen the enemy, they probably won't even know that they're completely screwed. They won't be able to use any abilities, and if they do use any abilities, they're not going to deal any damage. But nobody really knows this, so nobody uses Frozen because it's not incredibly detrimental. Like when you get hit with Slumber or when you get hit with Insanity, where you literally can't move. So most people stay away from both Scorching and Frozen, but I still really like this personally, because it's better than just putting another 35k slot here, you know? And then Wind and Time. I'm a big fan of any monster that gives you time, elemental resistance, uni defense. And the reason why is because star monsters have been dealing so much damage for so many years, and the only way to protect yourself is to add more time defense. So a lot of my monsters have both time defense and then some other element, so that I survive against the barrage of star monsters out there. So overall, I really like her, just because of this, honestly. But also, she does like exactly what you would want in Colosseum in a lot of instances. She gives you bubble, she gives you field, she gives you Twilight. She also debuffs the enemy, so hopefully they don't have their buffs, you know, and she applies Scorching and Slumber. I mean, these are all pretty damn good. I'd say she's a 10 out of 10 just for these, but as far as usage goes, especially if you're running physical damage, you might kill somebody with this, but probably not, just because of the three hits. Regardless, I still think she's a 10 out of 10 monster. You throw her and you should be able to kill them right after the uni. So I'm a big fan of her. Now let's move on to Epsilon. Also, same damage deal, but she is a buffing monster, and an incredibly powerful buffing monster at that. She gives you crit damage, a critical assault. She gives you Unigauge and Barracks. We talked about Barracks earlier. That's my favorite bubble. It's a permanent crit buff, so you don't need an increased crit chance because you have Barracks. Now your teammates do, but fuck your teammates because you are the bomb. That's all that matters, right? She also gives Water Quail, and then she does Water Element ×3, which is, again, really, really good. Rejection Resistance, which I love because people use rejection a lot in Colosseum, and I really hate that. It's annoying. You can't gain any uni, can't gain any cost. It's just the worst. And then both fire and water resistance. I love a monster like this. There are so many monsters that have light or star or dark, and so it feels like you get so much light, star, dark accumulation of uni defenses that you're just completely vulnerable to water, wind, fire, and time, right? So like those, or I guess star element. So you need time to protect against it. But it feels like those are always things that you're lacking. And she gives you exactly what you would want for the current meta, especially. Fire counters wind, which is what's being used a lot right now. People are using Valk in guild battles, and some other older time slicing monsters. And water beats fire, and people are using the newer fire monsters. There's a fire monster that I have, and I spawned her during the Miku collab. This bitch hits so hard and does so many things. She's incredibly good. She's like the beta. She applies tons of things to both the enemy field and you. I really like her, and because of that, she's being used a lot, and because of that, you need water defense. So she's perfect. She gives you water defense, which is a current meta thing. Now, this might be irrelevant in a couple of years, maybe even in a couple of months if they release some new monsters that are really good, like some new water monsters that are incredibly strong. But she is an incredible buff monster. You do need... she does give you crit chance, which is good. But she gives you both of the incredible crit buffs. She gives you Unigauge and Barracks, plus Water Quail. There's not a lot of good water monsters, and she gives you... Just this alone, in my opinion, is a 9 out of 10. There's not a lot of monsters that are incredibly versatile like this, especially for free-to-play players. And that's it. I would say she's, again, a 10 out of 10, because she's gonna be useful for so many things for so long. Now let's go over what I recommend spawning for just overall. So both of these spawns, this spawn and this spawn, are both like 235 gems, something like that. I would recommend redoing the math on that because I did that like weeks ago. But both of them use the same step-up coins. And because of that, you can spawn, if you're, excuse me, if you're doing these spawns over and over and over again, you can spawn this one, and if you get both alpha and beta, then you can swap to this spawn and get delta or epsilon. And so I recommend doing these spawns. I would recommend going after alpha, going after delta in some instances, and epsilon. I think those are the best. I'm not a big fan of beta. And then here I would recommend going after beta and epsilon. But there's a huge catch. Do not spawn this unless you have 650 or whatever, however many gems that it requires. It's like 600, but both of these spawns are 600 plus if you want the scroll. But for this one especially, there is no guarantee of monster. Let me repeat that. You can spawn 600 plus gems and get 0 monsters, 0 equipment, 0 defense gear. Do not expect anything from your gems if you spawn this. This is a whale spawn. These all have a guaranteed chance of a collab monster. And you get a guaranteed chance of both the offense gear and defense gear, I believe. Yeah. Guaranteed collab weapon, right? Same thing with this one. You get a guaranteed monster when you're at the end of the spawn. So if you spawn 600 gems, you're guaranteed 3 of these monsters and a scroll. If you spawn 600 plus gems on this one, you are not guaranteed anything. So just be aware of that. I would not recommend this spawn for most people, especially free-to-play players, because it's extremely expensive and because you have no chance of getting anything, or you have a chance of getting nothing, I guess is a better way to say it. Unless you have the exact amount so that you can trade for it, okay? I just want to make myself clear. I did spawn it, and I will be spawning a little bit more, so I'll probably make a video on that. So I got these three. I got Alpha, I got Beta, and I got her. That was rare. I would not recommend doing that. There is no guarantee of monster. So, just want to let you know. But yeah, alrighty. I will catch you guys later.